I'm tracking record heat here across the state. Heat warnings and also fire warnings coming up.
The Salt Lake City School Board is calling on one of its members to step down. The disturbing find police made, and it's something he admitted to. Coming up.
Students at a Salt Lake City middle school were curious about the COVID-19 vaccine and how it works.
We have to all do our part to make sure that we can stop COVID-19 from transferring from person to person.
So with a little help, they came up with a clinic and did research themselves.
You pay for water, you pay for gas, you pay for electricity.
Utah faces a reckoning when it comes to the gas tax and electric vehicles. What your elected lawmakers are going to do about it.
It's a relic from another time that survived for now, but some say it's time for the Redwood Drive-In to go. Hear from a group trying to save it and why they say this property helps the community beyond just movies.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13's Live at 5 starts right now.
The temperatures are rising in Utah, and it's only going to get hotter. We've tied a record high for this date today in Salt Lake City.
Let's get you right over to meteorologist Allison Krogan in the First Alert Weather Center. We're teetering on breaking that record, Al.
You know what? One of our computers is showing that we've reached 96 currently, so I'm just waiting for verification from the National Weather Service. But if we are at this 96 here in Salt Lake, that would mean that we have officially beat that record. Right now, the almanac still just updated a second ago. There you have it. So today's high, 2 degrees hotter than the record of 94 degrees set back in 1994. So a lot of heat expected over the next couple of days. So we're going to have excessive heat warnings tomorrow through Saturday for the Wasatch Front. The areas of orange, those are heat warnings. And then down into southern Utah, we also have some red flag warnings that'll be issued through Saturday evening. So here across the region, we've got a lot of sunshine, chance for a few thunderstorms down towards the Four Corners and into Nevada. We'll bring that chance for a few isolated thunderstorms here across Utah tomorrow, but overnight it's going to be hot. It'll be in the 70s for most of the night, so you wake up tomorrow morning comfortable. By noon, though, it is dangerously hot again here across the state. We'll talk more about the air quality the next couple of days and that UV index coming up in the full forecast.
Allison, thank you. It is so hot and dry. Governor Spencer Cox is asking Utahns to join in prayer this weekend for an end to the state's drought emergency.
We need more rain, and we need it now. We need some divine intervention. That's why I'm asking Utahns of all faiths to join me in a weekend of prayer, June 4th through the 6th. By praying collaboratively and collectively, asking God or whatever higher power you believe in for more rain, we may be able to escape the deadliest aspects of the continuing drought.
The drought threatens crops and the state's food supply. The governor is also asking Utahns to conserve water, fix leaky faucets and showers, and use water-wise landscaping.
The reason it's concerning to us is that's a position of trust that had access to children K through 12.
The Salt Lake City School Board is now calling for the resignation of one of its members after he was arrested and accused of possessing child pornography. Police say Huleli Organista admitted to having the porn.
Fox 13's Aaron Cox joins us live from the Salt Lake District offices after speaking with board members today. Aaron.
Bob and Kelly, Huleli Organista was elected to the Board of Education and started his term in January. Fellow board members say that he did undergo a background check after his election, and that's why his arrest is so surprising.
My friends, I don't know where to start.
Members of the Salt Lake City School District Board of Education say what they learned today left them speechless.
As a parent, as a new elected board member, my heart is shattered to pieces.
Investigators with the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force say they are still trying to identify everyone involved.
So basically, we have a snapshot. Obviously, we want as much information as we can possibly obtain.
The task force was alerted by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children of suspicious activity.
We're receiving probably close to 250 to 300 cyber tips per month.
A cyber tip had come in through the internet provider saying a Dropbox account had multiple images of child pornography. The account was linked to Hueli Organista's house address, where they found additional evidence.
Yes, there were some text conversations where some illegal images were shared between the two in the conversation.
Conversations between children soliciting sexual content.
The reason it's concerning to us is that's a position of trust that had access to children K through 12.
As individual school board members whose duty it is to protect and enrich the lives of children, we condemn the crimes of which Mr. Organista has been accused. To engage in any such conduct or to exploit or endanger any child is indefensible.
The Salt Lake City School District board leadership sent a letter to Organista calling for his resignation.
I wish there is something that I could say to the parents of those children who are hurt.
Now, board members have requested a response from Organista by tomorrow, and they say if they do not hear from him, that they will hold an emergency meeting to determine what action needs to be taken next. As far as we know, Organista is still in jail awaiting formal charges. In Salt Lake City, Aaron Cox, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Aaron, thank you. Organista also served as National Vice President of Youth for the League of United Latin American Citizens. He has since been suspended. In a statement to Fox 13 News, the organization president says they were unaware of the specifics in this matter. Quote, "We respect and presume Mr. Organista is innocent until proven guilty through due process. However, his LULAC duties are suspended effective immediately until the legal charges are resolved."
Developing right now, Kaysville police are looking for whoever removed someone's LGBTQ pride flag from their home and burned it. It happened at about 4:45 this morning. A derogatory note was also left behind. This is now being investigated as a possible hate crime. If you have any information, please call Kaysville Police.
Police in Orem say they have 2 suspects and a person of interest in custody in connection with a deadly shooting last night. 18-year-old Sidney Roman Rodriguez and his brother, who has not been identified, are facing charges in the shooting. 20-year-old Chance Nuttall, a person of interest in the case, turned himself into police at about 3 this afternoon. All 3 victims were found in a car near 1200 North and State Street yesterday afternoon. The 2 survivors were taken to the hospital in critical condition.
This evening, we're learning of what's being called a landslip at the Bingham Canyon mine this week. A spokesperson for Rio Tinto Kennecott says it happened on Monday morning in the southeast corner of the mine. Check these pictures out. The company also says the landslip was expected based on monitoring that is constantly going on at the mine. We're told all workers were evacuated ahead of time. Luckily, no one was hurt. The company says it will resume work in the area when it's safe to do so. This is just the latest slide at the Bingham Canyon mine. Remember this? In April 2013, there were 2 rock avalanches that slid down the mine at speeds of up to 100 miles an hour. University of Utah researchers found there was enough debris to bury New York City's Central Park 66 feet deep. Wow. No one was hurt in this slide back in 2013.
A new survey says 65% of those taking part in focus groups support changing the name of Dixie State University and dumping the word Dixie. Love Communications, which is doing community surveys, says Dixie has been a polarizing name. It has faced problems with connection to the Civil War Confederacy. University administrators say it's hurting the school's growth and reputation. Focus groups reacted positively to the names like Utah, St. George, Red Rock, and even Deseret as themes. Work will be done over the summer to come up with a new name, and then the legislature will vote on it next year. Now, despite the fact many are returning to their jobs or remote work over the past year, state employees were stuck at home today.
That's right, but it wasn't because of the pandemic. It was because of this, bad air quality. The Department of Environmental Quality says hot summer days like we're seeing this week often makes air quality even worse.
Those concentrate during our high pressure systems that we see here in the valley. They concentrate and build up. And then it's the sunlight that actually photochemically converts those from the precursors into the actual ozone pollution.
Doesn't look good and it doesn't feel good. If you're ever curious about Utah's air quality, the Department of Environmental Quality does post current conditions right on its website. We can link you to that from fox13now.com. The Utah Jazz are on to the next round of the NBA playoffs after last night. They had a big win against the Memphis Grizzlies at home. It made it even better, Bob.
Oh, sure did. And with that, single tickets for all home games for the Western Conference semifinals are now on sale. Vivint Arena is returning to full capacity with more than 18,000 fans in the lower and upper bowls and suites. A limited number of courtside seats will be available for fully vaccinated people and a negative COVID-19 rapid test. Now, don't forget, we've got you covered on the Jazz's playoff journey every weekday on non-game nights. The Fox 13 sports team will present the Sports Page Playoff Edition. Jeff and the gang will highlight where the Jazz stand now and provide analysis ahead of the next game. Watch the Fox 13 Sports Page Playoff Edition on the Fox 13 app, on Facebook, your streaming device, and at fox13now.com.
The games have been so exciting.
They have.
I love it. Still to come, big steps are being taken to close the digital divide in America. How much money is going to those on tribal lands?
He was considered egotistical, meticulous, and brilliant. F. Lee Bailey, the attorney who got O.J. Simpson acquitted, has died. A brief look at his illustrious career coming up.
In national news, the Biden administration is making $1 billion in federal grants available to help close the digital divide.
The funding will also be used to expand the availability of high-speed internet on Native American tribal lands. Vice President Kamala Harris says 1 in 3 Americans who live in rural areas and on tribal lands lack access to high-speed internet.
Our nation is making significant progress in fulfilling our government's obligations to tribal nations. At the same time, I want to be clear about this round of funding for broadband infrastructure. It is a down payment on the work we must do. We must keep going until we connect every American household.
Officials say the funds can be used for job training, laying fiber optic cables, telehealth, and distance learning. The Department of Justice is now investigating Postmaster General Louis DeJoy regarding campaign contributions tied to his former business. DeJoy was appointed head of the Postal Service in May of last year by former President Donald Trump. A spokesman for DeJoy says the campaign contributions were made by employees who worked for him when he was in the private sector and that he has never knowingly violated campaign contribution laws.
Famed celebrity attorney F. Lee Bailey has died at the age of 87. He defended O.J. Simpson, Patricia Hearst, and the alleged Boston Strangler. But his 4-decade legal career was halted when he was disbarred in 2 states. Bailey was seen as arrogant, egocentric, and contemptuous of authority. But he was also considered bold, brilliant, meticulous, and tireless in the defense of his clients. His cause of death was not disclosed.
I just want to keep the community around me safe.
Students in Salt Lake City were curious about how COVID-19 vaccinations work. Coming up, a look at the in-school vaccination clinic that was inspired by the young students' work.
More than 9,700 doses of the COVID-19 vaccine have been administered in Utah since yesterday's report, and more than 4,500 more Utahns are now fully vaccinated. 343 new cases of COVID-19 were reported in Utah today, and 3 more Utahns have lost their lives. The 7-day positivity rate is 6.6%.
University of Utah Health now opening a COVID-19 long hauler clinic. It's designed to deliver optimum patient care to people experiencing COVID symptoms weeks to even months after being diagnosed. The clinic will start seeing patients both virtually and in person coming up on June 21st. The goal is to treat patients as well as conduct research, also gain knowledge on the evolving topic of COVID-19.
Realizing that friends, relative, there was a big need for this, and it just didn't exist within the region. And we felt that this was just a really important part of why we're here.
To that point, this clinic is the first in our area to have specialists on hand. The next closest clinics are in Colorado and New Mexico. Doctors say they are ready to treat as many people as possible. They will keep the clinic open as long as patients need treatment.
The state health department has announced who will replace Dr. Angela Dunn as state epidemiologist. Dr. Leisha Nolan comes from the Centers for Disease Control, where she's been serving in the agency's Arctic Investigations Program in Alaska. Early on in the pandemic, Dr. Nolan was one of the first responders who investigated a cluster of COVID cases in a Seattle nursing home. She starts as Utah's next state epidemiologist on July 6th. Bryant Middle School in Salt Lake City hosted a COVID-19 vaccination clinic today for students 12 years old and older and their families.
Yeah, some young researchers here. This all happened after students asked their science teacher about how the vaccines work. As Diego Romo shows us, a little curiosity can have a big impact on the community in a way that's positively Utah.
Many Americans have questions on how COVID-19 vaccines work, and kids are no exception.
My students, I told them that the COVID-19 vaccine was available for kids their age, and they had so many questions.
This inspired 8th grade science teacher Brittany Dame to turn the questions into a project for students.
The students read and they watched videos and they processed some information, and then they taught each other about basically trying to teach each other about the answers to those questions.
In math class, the students compiled all the data they collected into two-way frequency tables to better understand the effectiveness of the COVID-19 vaccines.
And then we decided, you know what, let's try to get some kids vaccinated.
I just want to keep the community around me safe.
Bryant Middle School student Carla Arriero decided to get vaccinated after learning more through the project.
From the school project, I learned that 95% of the vaccine actually can protect you and prevent you from getting the COVID.
Dame says it was nice to have students so interested in a project, especially as they prepare for summer break.
It was really nice to have some buy-in in the last week of school and still studying science and things that are directly applicable to us.
It also gave students a chance to learn about the role each of us play in protecting the community against the spread of the virus.
It does protect your body, but then again, in public you still have to wear masks and you still have to be careful because the other 5% you could still get COVID.
This is our ticket out of the pandemic, right? We have to all do our part to make sure that we can stop COVID-19 from transferring from person to person.
In Salt Lake City, Diego Romo, Fox 13 News, Utah.
20 minutes ago, we were talking with Allison about coming close to a heat record today.
And then we just smashed it.
Did we?
Yes, we did. So we ended up being 97 today. Not 96 like we are right now, but our old record was 94 degrees, so we beat that old record. We were tied for much of the afternoon, and we do have more heat in the forecast. So for today, excessive heat warnings already in place. Lake Powell over towards St. George. This goes until Saturday night. Now come tomorrow, we go ahead and we bring the excessive heat warnings to much of the Wasatch Front, including Salt Lake up towards Ogden, down into Utah County. Areas of orange will be heat advisories, but heat will be the main headline weather-wise over the next couple of days. Heat advisories through parts of central Utah, Duchesne, Fairview down towards Monroe, right through I-70. And then come Saturday, we're going to continue with red flag warnings even Friday into Saturday for the areas of pink, and then the purple, those are the excessive heat warnings. And then we will continue with the red flag warnings, Green River up through Price along Highway 6 right there. But dangerous heat in the forecast. We do have a high risk of heat-related illnesses the next couple of days for much of the population. So things that you can do: stay hydrated, keep the air conditioning going. A couple of you wrote to me on Facebook and said, well, our air conditioner just went out. There are cooling centers here in Salt Lake expected over the next couple of days, so make sure that you are finding air conditioning. With the heat, St. George fan isn't going to cut it, so you will have to be really safe. You'll want to avoid the sun during the daytime heat from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. if you can. Plus, we have an extreme UV index for tomorrow. And then if we end up hitting 100 tomorrow here in Salt Lake City, that would be our earliest day for triple digits ever here in Salt Lake. So seek shade the next couple of days and also protect your skin and eyes. Salt Lake City, it's hot right now at 96, and our wind is pretty light, and our wind will end up picking up Friday into Saturday, which will lead to the fire concerns across southern Utah. Now, temperatures right now here across the state, it is hot. St. George 103 currently, compared to this time 24 hours ago. It's about 5 degrees warmer here along the Wasatch Front, so very hot here the next couple of days. For tomorrow, the chance for even some thunderstorms isolated here across the region, including across Utah, and we'll see that chance developing tomorrow, second half of the day. So we'll want to keep our eye on that possibility by 6:30 p.m. That'll be mostly into Nevada and parts of Utah. Tomorrow, it's going to be a really hot day here in Salt Lake. So after lunchtime, we're close to 100 degrees for several hours. First thing tomorrow morning, it'll be about 70 to 75 when you wake up for Salt Lake and St. George. You're going to be 80 degrees by 8 a.m. Then triple digits after lunchtime. So extremely hot tomorrow for St. George. Highs, overnight temperatures tomorrow will be about 60 to 70, which wouldn't be a crazy high, but the crazy high will come during the afternoon. But it's going to be about 90 to 100 here across a lot of the state tomorrow. St. George, low 100s through Saturday and Sunday, and then 90s next week. So the hot weather will continue for the Wasatch Front. We're close to 95 to 100 through Saturday. By Sunday, low 90s. We'll keep it in the 90s through the rest of the 7-day forecast or close to it. We'll talk more about what you can expect later this weekend into next week coming up in the next full forecast.
It's one of the last drive-in theaters left in Utah, and it may be history if one developer gets their way. How you can sound off on the fate of the Redwood Drive-In.
We've got some good news and some bad news when it comes to the gas tax and electric vehicles. What it means for you when you hit the roads.
And talk about a generous gift. How students at one elementary school are giving back to local police officers.
A major retailer wants its employees to stay in touch all the time.
Walmart is giving nearly half of its U.S. employees free Samsung phones by the end of the year. They'll use a company app to manage shifts, clock in, and stay in constant communication. The 740,000 Walmart employees will receive those Samsung Galaxy X-Cover Pro smartphones. Walmart tested the project earlier this year. Now, it won't be able to see personal information on the phone, so that gives the coworkers some privacy. However, it will see work emails, work apps, web history on the phone's work browser, as well as clock-in locations.
Another airline is making changes to its alcohol policy. United had previously said it would resume offering drinks on flights longer than 200 miles. Now it says it will only offer beer, wine, and seltzer on flights longer than 800 miles. This comes after American said it will not serve alcohol in the main cabin for now. Southwest paused alcohol service altogether. These changes come as a result of bad behavior by passengers.
U.S. stocks fell today as fresh weekly data showed a continued recovery in the labor market, and traders kept a close eye on any potential policy shifts from the Federal Reserve. The Dow slipped 23 points to close at 34,577. The Nasdaq lost 142. The S&P dropped 15.
In the next half hour, could the gas tax be history in Utah? What lawmakers are working on and why it may be a tough pill to swallow for some drivers.
I think a lot of Utahns would miss the Redwood Drive-In if it was gone, but there are people that would be financially devastated if it were to disappear. We'll hear from them, plus why this property may no longer exist soon, coming up.
A petition for a zoning change at the Redwood Drive-In in West Valley City has citizens worried.
The proposed developer wants to put apartments on the land. Spencer Joseph spoke with those who would be impacted. He joins us live from the drive-in this evening. Spencer.
Good evening. Yeah, I think a lot of Utahns would miss the Redwood Drive-In if it was gone. It's certainly an iconic place, but there's one group of people that would be financially devastated if it were to disappear, and that's those that religiously every weekend come here to sell their goods at the swap meet. I spoke with some of them today, and they're just really hoping this property doesn't close.
Honestly, I would probably cry. My mom's been crying. I would cry. Just so many memories here.
Jessica, her mom, and her siblings have been selling things at the Redwood Drive-In swap meet for the last 20 years.
Literally, it's her only source of income. Single mom, 9 kids.
But those who sell at the swap meet here just got word that the Redwood Drive-In might be redeveloped into apartments.
Just a lot of heartbreak.
Fox 13 has yet to hear from the owner of the drive-in on what exactly their plans are. But an item on next Wednesday's West Valley City Planning Commission states that the Van Dale Homes of Utah petitioned to have zoning on this 24.9-acre plot change from general commercial to medium-density residential. That change would allow this land to be redeveloped into homes or apartments. When Jessica and her family called Fox 13 about the issue, we asked if anyone else would like to talk about how much the swap meet means to them. This is how many people showed up to our interview.
We have like 700 vendors in the swap meet, and we have about 8,000 people coming every weekend.
It's really sad because a lot of people get their primary income from here.
I've been here about 7 years. I've met hundreds, maybe 500 friends.
We're all nice to each other. It's kind of like a big old family.
We couldn't talk to everyone who wanted to speak, but each of them told us that their livelihood depends on selling goods here.
What would happen if this place disappeared tomorrow?
I'd be devastated.
And the community would also lose an iconic part of its history without the drive-in movies. So the message from all those that depend and love the Redwood Drive-In is,
I hope we don't lose it because it's the uniqueness of this place. We don't have another drive-thru and we don't have another outdoor swap meet.
I want to reemphasize that we have not heard from the owners of the Redwood Drive-In what exactly their plans are for this property. That zoning commission meeting is in West Valley and does take place next Wednesday, June 9th, and it could potentially decide the future of this property. In West Valley City, Spencer Joseph, Fox 13 News. Utah.
Spencer, thank you. Van Daly Homes, the developer listed on the West Valley City Planning Commission's notice for next week's meeting, is based out of California. Now, we did reach out to them for comment on this story and have not yet heard back. However, it appears this would be their first housing project in Utah.
Lots and lots of sunshine today and temperatures. We broke a record, Allison.
We did not. We were tied for a couple of hours, and we not only beat it by a degree, we beat it by a couple of degrees. And it's still hot here in Salt Lake City, but take a look at these temperatures. Something we don't see very often. It's actually hotter in Fargo than it is down in Dallas by about 20 degrees. Memphis 81, 71 in New York City, but the West, we are dealing with the brunt of this heat. 105 currently in Phoenix. Is triple digits currently for St. George at 103. So we are hot here across the state. Most of us about 90 to 100 degrees here across Utah, and the heat will continue for a few more days. This heat wave will get worse before it gets better. For tomorrow, excessive heat warnings have been issued for the Wasatch Front. We also have heat advisories for Twilla down through Fairview over towards Duchesne, and then we also have fire weather warnings that have been issued. So I'm tracking a lot of heat, potentially some isolated thunderstorms, and we'll talk more about air quality. That's also a concern the next few days, coming up in the full forecast.
Allison, thank you. You know, the drought right now causing some boat ramps to close at popular recreation areas. Look at this map. This is where the boat ramps have either closed or are limiting how many people can use them. Utah State Park Rangers ask that you check before you go to see where you can safely launch from. State natural resource officials have warned the situation is unfortunately expected to get worse as the summer goes on.
Yeah, and as temperatures are on the rise, a familiar service is returning to Salt Lake County. The county's cool zones are opening, offering residents a place to cool off. Many public buildings have been designated as cool zones, from libraries to senior and recreation centers. County says these places are crucial in keeping residents safe from the heat,
so that we can ensure that individuals who don't have air conditioning or who are seeking a reprieve from hot summer temperatures have some place that they can go.
We have a list of all the Salt Lake County cool zones. Just go to fox13now.com.
The Story Garden in downtown Salt Lake City is now open. It's part of Pride Week. It's a maze exhibit that also tells the story of the LGBTQ community and Utah history. It's located at Washington Square in downtown Salt Lake City. Tickets cost $10 to $25 per person, and attendance is limited because of COVID safety precautions.
A St. George area man convicted of killing his wife aboard a cruise ship in Alaska has been sentenced. Kenneth Manzanares pleaded guilty to killing his wife Christy aboard the Emerald Princess back in 2017. The Utah couple was vacationing with family at the time. She was beaten to death inside their cabin, and prosecutors say he tried to throw her body overboard. Today, a federal judge in Juneau sentenced Manzanares to 30 years in prison.
I think you may have an opinion on this. The gas tax could soon become a thing of the past in Utah. Your elected lawmakers are seriously looking at charging you now for how many miles you drive in a day.
It's designed to help Utah's air quality and keep Utah roads safe and in good shape. Here's Fox 13's Ben Winslow.
Utah faces a reckoning when it comes to roads. We've got more electric vehicles, which is a great thing for air quality, but they're not paying for filling potholes. It's a good news, bad news kind of problem.
We're moving to a world and a state where electric cars are going to be the norm and gas cars are going to be something of the past.
More people are buying electric, hybrid, and alternative fuel vehicles, which is great for our air quality. But now the state is starting to see declines in the gas tax.
It's one of the biggest funding challenges we have in the state,
which is earmarked for road repairs.
The fuel tax has been a great funding source for the last century. It's going to become much less viable here.
It's projected that in the next few years, Utah could lose as much as $300 million a year as more people start driving more alternative fuel vehicles.
We will have less ability to go through and pay for the roads that we all drive on, and we hate those potholes. We want them filled. We want those bridges safe.
The legislature tried to hike vehicle registration fees and faced taxpayer pushback. Toll roads are even more unpopular, so Utah's Department of Transportation is experimenting with charging electric vehicle owners based on miles driven.
Feedback that we've received has really run the gamut.
You're charged 1.5 cents per mile that you drive.
Senator Wayne Harper, who chairs the Senate Transportation Committee, has been participating in the experiment.
You pay for water, you pay for gas, you pay for electricity, not on a flat rate. You pay for what you use.
He also believes moving to a charge based on miles driven won't disproportionately affect rural Utahns.
This is equitable both in urban and the rural parts of Utah. It should go through to make it so the people in rural Utah will actually pay a little bit less because they're not driving as many miles in a month because they take fewer trips even though they're longer.
Senator Harper is planning a bill next year.
Charging for vehicle miles traveled is the best thing to do.
Now, if his bill were to pass, Senator Harper says it would not be fully implemented in the state until 2030. Utah is not alone in this. Other states are considering similar bills. In Salt Lake City, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
So if this bill passes, how much would it cost you? Well, we added up the numbers, and here's what we found. At 1.5 cents a mile for a trip from Salt Lake City to Moab, that would be roughly $3.50. To St. George, about $4.50. To Vernal, about $2.63. And of course, it does not cover how much it would cost to charge an electric vehicle.
We'll see what happens with that. Still to come, a sweet story you don't want to miss. These service dogs, now in training, have a pretty unique teacher. How veterans are preparing them for their new role and also seeing their own benefit at the same time.
And used car prices are spiking in Utah. How long experts think it'll take for the market to cool down. We're back in 60 seconds. A Utah landmark has been listed as one of the nation's most endangered historic sites. The 100-year-old Old J-Tow Trading Post in San Juan County was designated an endangered site by the National Trust for Historic Preservation. It is now a focus for preservation efforts by the Navajo Nation. The post was built in 1921 and was an active trading spot and home for tribal members. But it'll cost more than $1 million to rehabilitate it. The state and federal governments would like it to become a community center and tourist stop for Monument Valley and Bears Ears National Monument.
First, it was homes, and now if you're looking for a new car, you might have a hard time. There's a shortage here in Utah and worldwide. In many cases, the actual vehicles are available, but the chips that power them are not. And that's the problem. It's all because of a huge demand for microchips in phones and gaming systems, all during the pandemic. Some car makers are even shutting down plants as the chip shortage continues. Some feel this may be an issue for another year to 18 months. Experts say if you can find a car you like, you will likely get top dollar for your trade-in right now.
It's been a struggle trying to get funding for them.
Still, some canine officers have a little extra protection thanks to some Utah elementary students.
Glad you're with us tonight, everyone. The emotional stress our wounded veterans experience is being eased by service dogs. But those dogs go through some pretty unique and tough training.
Maya Rodriguez shows us how veterans are playing a role in getting the dogs ready for others like them nationwide.
See. Meet Dole. Sit. A service dog in training.
Stand.
Still getting schooled.
Well, he's a little bit of a goof, which is probably why they matched him with me. All right, Ham.
Dole's trainer, retired Air Force Colonel John Brick.
I started out launching nuclear missiles in North Dakota. I ended up a few years later launching space shuttles in Cocoa Beach. And then towards the end of my career, I became a diplomat.
But upon his retirement, Brick sensed things weren't quite right.
And it didn't occur to me that I might be having issues with PTSD. I got evaluated by the VA, and they said, hey, you might want to consider this.
This is the Warrior Canine Connection. Salute. Yes. A nonprofit training center for service dogs nestled on a former dairy farm in Maryland. The dogs in training here will eventually be matched with a wounded veteran. And many of the trainers here are veterans themselves.
We engage wounded warriors, those struggling with psychological injuries, mostly in helping to train our dogs.
Licensed social worker Rick Yount came up with the idea 15 years ago. Since then, through VA referrals, they've helped 5,000 veterans.
It's impacted many, many people. We call it mission-based trauma recovery. And we've had hundreds of dogs involved as well.
Not every dog in the program will end up becoming a service dog. Some of them end up becoming breeder dogs, and this is the result. These puppies will be evaluated when they're a little bit older to see if they're ready to become service dogs.
An online puppy cam allows people from around the country to see what they're up to at any time. When they get a bit older, their training begins.
These veterans give so much to their country and sacrifice so much. The least we can do is give them a tool to be successful moving on with their life.
Down.
For Colonel Brick, his training time with Dole was nearing the end, but he got a surprise.
The whole time I had in an application for a service dog of my own. So I came back in for another. I'm getting a little choked up on this. I came back in for an interview about 3 weeks ago, and the next day I got a call like, hey, we've got just one more question for you. I'm like, okay, what is it? And the question was, would you like to be matched with Dole?
A chance to finally go home together.
Good boy.
In Boyd's, Maryland, I'm Maya Rodriguez.
Did they even need to ask? Of course. Special dogs and people there. In addition to Maryland, Warrior Canine Connection has training facilities in California and North Carolina. Their service dogs are then placed with veterans all over the country.
Closer to home, 2 canine officers with the Woods Cross Police Department now have new bulletproof vests. More than $3,000 was raised over the past 2 years by the Student Leadership Council at Woods Cross Elementary. The canine officers' handlers are grateful for the community support.
Now, these vests aren't cheap. We're out here. These dogs are being put in a dangerous position. We're really grateful for them. It's been a struggle trying to get funding for them.
Since the students raised more than $3,000, the leftover funds will go and be used for training.
Well, hey, if you have a dog, make sure that you are avoiding that daytime heat the next couple of days and getting out and being done with the walk by 10 a.m. That is how hot it's going to be the next couple of days. Right now, Salt Lake County, our ozone is at the orange level that is unhealthy for sensitive groups. Utah at the yellow level, same thing for Davis, both moderate air. And for tomorrow, we'll continue with orange air here in Salt Lake with mandatory action. But through Saturday, the air quality will be a little bit better with voluntary action, but for your Friday, it'll be just like today. That ozone will become a problem yet again. And our temperatures have been so hot today. Right now here along the Wasatch Front, we are about 90 to 95 degrees. 97 was our record high today here in Salt Lake City. That beat the old record of 94 degrees that was set back in 1994. St. George currently a 103. It is still dangerously hot across parts of Utah. Satellite and radar here across the region does call for a chance for some isolated thunderstorms down towards the Four Corners over into Nevada, and we will continue with a chance for some isolated storms tomorrow. But right now, the heat is the main story, and our top weather headlines for you. Record heat possible over the next couple of days, and actually likely heading into tomorrow especially. We have heat warnings for northern Utah starting tomorrow. Southern Utah already in effect for Lake Powell over towards St. George, and then we'll have red flag warnings for southern Utah Friday to Saturday, and then the air quality, as we just went over, that is going to be a problem as well. And then this upcoming weekend, fires become a concern. So for tomorrow afternoon, we'll want to still be careful here across the region, especially southern Utah and the West Desert, and then into Saturday, we'll have those red flag warnings in place, priced down towards the Green River, and then into southern Utah. So when you wake up tomorrow morning, it'll be about 60 to 70, and then highs tomorrow. We'll go ahead and pause these temperatures at 5 p.m. where it'll be about 90 to 95. St. George, you're going to be around 105 the next few days. A little bit cooler this upcoming weekend, come Sunday into Monday, but still very hot. And then middle of next week, we might end up seeing our winds picking up. So still keeping our eye on that. But until then, we'll continue with very hot temperatures. Tomorrow, the chance for some isolated thunderstorms will become more widespread here across the state. Same thing on Saturday along the higher terrain, might see a few showers popping up. So still some instability across the state possible to see some of those showers developing. For St. George, close to 105 through Saturday. That's why we have the excessive heat warning in place. And then 101 for Sunday. Next week in the 90s. Overnight temperatures 70 to 80. For the Wasatch Front, close to 100 tomorrow, mid-90s for Saturday. All of this is above average. We keep you close to 90 to 95 throughout the entire 7-day forecast.
Following a Game 1 setback, the triumphant return of Donovan Mitchell sparked a playoff win streak for the Jazz. 4 straight in their column, meaning their first-round series was laid to rest last night at the Viv, where Donovan shined ever so bright, number 45 on fire pretty much the entire first half of Game 5. Utah with a 47-point first quarter, spearheaded by Donovan doing his thing. The confidence to hit shots like these, including to beat the halftime horn. Spida finished 10 of 13 with 26 at the break alone, 30 and 10 assists by game's end. Game 5 never in doubt as the Jazz led by 24 going into the locker room and 30-plus entering the fourth to solidify the franchise's first postseason series win since Donovan's rookie year when they bested Oklahoma City in the first round.
We're going to have to continue to have the same level of effort and intensity every game
throughout these playoffs. And, tonight was good, but we did what we were supposed to do. We didn't come this far to just win one series and kind of be like, oh, we didn't lose 3-1, or 4-1 like we did last year. At the end of the day, we come out here and it's just one series, and we got to go out there and do it again and again and again. So for us, it's savor the moment, enjoy it, because it's been 3 years. But also at the same time, we got a job to do. So it's going out there, watching film, getting locked in, mentally and physically ready, and getting rested and getting ready to go.
Speaking of buzzer beaters, Mike Conley had one of his own last night to beat the first quarter horn, but we didn't see much of the point guard after that, and ended up finding out later that he left the game with hamstring soreness. Conley's third episode this season with that right hammy, though this one perhaps not as serious. An MRI today revealed a mild strain, and he'll be reevaluated prior to game 1 of round 2.
Just kept getting sore and sore as the more I was running on it, so they decided to pull me, and we just did treatment on the back. But seeing how the game was going, and knowing that we might have a couple days now before our next series, just to pull the plug on tonight.
The Jazz are the first team on the Western Conference side of the bracket to advance into round 2, where the winner of this series awaits next. A strange series in which the road team rules the roost. This is game 5 from last night, where Luka Doncic put up another doozy for the Mavericks. Try 42, 14 dimes, and 8 boards. Another tough shot right here, but the Clippers rallied late to make it interesting. First, Paul George going off balance and off glass. LA then turning to Kawhi Leonard for 3 more, whistle, layup, and a free throw as well to cut it to just 1 at the Staples Center. But they needed 1 more bucket to complete the comeback, and this time it did not drop in the final seconds. Dallas holding on 103-100 to give the road team another one, the first time since 1995 that the visiting team has won the first 5 games of a playoff series. Game 6 is tomorrow night. And coming up at 6:30 tonight, Andrea Urban and I will be live on Fox13Now.com, the Fox 13 app, the Fox 13 Facebook page, and all streaming devices with another round of the Sports Page Playoff Edition, talking everything Game 5, and it was a fine one at the Viv. We'll be right back.
Thanks, everybody, for being part of Fox 13 News Live at 5.
Have a great evening. Hope to see you back here tonight at 9.
Bye-bye.